And I thought you were ready to give up.
Ours was the first revolution.
How you guys doing tonight? This is John Allen, host of We the People, and welcome to our We the People streaming on Facebook and whatever else platform you're looking at. Today is September 15th, 2020. We're also broadcasting on WLTH 1370 AM, WLTH 1370 AM. Tune in every Thursday at 6 p.m. and you check us out. And those of you who have joined us through the We the People social media page, you can call in tonight at 219-885-1371. We welcome the call-ins at 219-885-1371. Tonight's show, we're going to have a little discussion about a little bit of everything, and we're about to start broadcasting on the radio in about 30 seconds. And one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is, in addition to an episode of the Law Library, some case material, and we're going to also have a guest tonight. We're going to have Jocelyn Kelly, founder of Jay's Breakfast Club tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about her experience building out a new building.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, Gary, Indiana, the region, Northwest Indiana, Hobart, Hammond, Crown Point, all the surrounding towns, EC, even that town they call East Chicago and New Chicago, Indiana. Every county Indiana it is in the Northwest Indiana region. I send a shout out and say hello tonight, and welcome to We the People with your host, John Allen, and with your guest tonight. We have a guest tonight from the local community, Jocelyn Kelly, because We the People wouldn't be a good show without people. And I want to start off by reading a disclaimer. The views expressed by the host and callers of this show are not necessarily the views of WLTH management, owners, advertisers, and or sponsors. So with that being said, let's get the show underway. Tonight, I want to talk about a couple of things, but first I want to do some housekeeping. As you guys know, Gary native Jesse Powell, R&B singer, passed recently. I believe he passed the day before yesterday, so I want to send the condolences out to all his family. And Jesse was very popular in the 90s for his song called You, and I used to like it. It was one of my favorite songs, and I really enjoyed Mr. Jesse Powell. We also lost jazz legend Ramsey Lewis. Ramsey Lewis was born in Chicago in Cabrini Green Public Housing and is a multi-Grammy Award winning jazz musician. And we want to send our condolences out to Ramsey Lewis and thank him for his great contribution to a body of music that's very special in America, and that is jazz music. I was honored, or had a great time getting to go to the recent Chicago Jazz Festival down at Millennium Park, and they had some great musicians there too. And I'm sure if Ramsey was in great health, he probably would have been down there and enjoyed the show. But at any rate, Ramsey Lewis passing this week too. So we lost two great musicians, one relatively young and one older that we got to enjoy a little bit longer. With that being said, I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about something else on our show. Last week, we mentioned that we may actually demonstrate how to do FOIA, or what's called the Freedom of Information Act, on our show. And the reason why I brought that up, or what triggered the thought about that, well, one of them is one of my buddies or friends brought it up. But one of the things that triggered us discussing that, and we're going to eventually on the air do a live clinic where we explain how the FOIA works, what it's for, what it can be used for, and actually how to fill out a FOIA form. But Freedom of Information Act is when you ask for public information, right? And you can ask for public information from different governmental departments and agencies. And sometimes we may want this information, say we have a community organization, and we might do a Freedom of Information Act for how many traffic tickets and how many accidents that our police have documented at a particular intersection. And the purpose for us to do that, we're maybe trying to make a decision with proper information as to whether or not we should go from a stop sign to a red light at an intersection. And we might do a FOI for that reason, or FOIA for that reason. Another reason we might do a FOIA, let's say we're being given some information and we have reason to believe that all information is not accurate, or some of it is missing, or redacted. That's a big college word for blacked out or marked out, or redacted. And we might do a Freedom of Information Act so we can get to the bottom of the information we might want to know from a public agency. I used the Freedom of Information Act before, and it helped me quite a bit. I was in a dispute about my whereabouts, and I was arguing over whether or not I signed a document before. And I was accused of signing a document, and the signature looked a lot like mine, but I didn't believe it was my signature. But the body of the document, or the text of the document, it gave reference to some dates as to what I was signing or agreeing to, where I had to be visited between the window of, let's say, August 26th and August 29th. So that's a 3-day window. And so I did a FOIA act for the whereabouts of one of the particular parties in the document as to where they were that day, or those 3 days. And the reason why I did that, the party was a public official. They was employee of a public official. They wasn't an elected official, but they were the employee of a public official, and they were making this allegation that I signed this document. And to prove I didn't sign the document, I did a FOIA, and the FOIA revealed that in that 3-day period, they couldn't not have seen me. So what we discovered, how they acquired my signature, because it looked a lot like, I believe it was my signature, but how they wound up acquiring my signature, the document was a 3-page document, and the signature page was the last page. And so I was handed the 3rd page on another occasion and say, here, sign this. And I signed it, and they attached it to the other document, the other 2 pages, which contracted me to the other 2 pages. And so FOIA, it was a great tool for me in that instance. And I'm not saying that every time you need a FOIA is for something bad or anything like that. So I look forward to having that on the Law Library segment of our show, the FOIA. Today, the mayor had the State of the City address. I didn't get to go. Maybe I'll listen to it later. But the State of the City address, if any of you listen to that, you're more than welcome to call in, and maybe you can share with us what you thought about that, what you thought about the State of the City address. Not what you think about the State of the City, what you thought about the address. So we're inviting people to call in and talk to us a little bit about that. The number for that would be 219-885-1371. Okay, so we're going to shift gears a little bit again. I'm going to talk to you about something else. And it's the same vein of the FOIA. One of the things of the program that we would like to do is bring awareness. So if you have a community block club or some type of organization that have some type of civic problem, particularly a civic problem, right? And you want to know what agency or entity or person that you contact about that and how the process for that work. And we're not giving legal advice, but call us up and we'll talk about that on the show, not for the purpose of just trying to address your issue. So the general public, I have some degree of awareness of how things work. Like I said, I think I said this on the show before. One time I witnessed someone ask a mayor about the United States mail. And the mayor don't run the United States mail, of course. And we were fortunate enough where he directed them to the appropriate parties. But anything like that, we need to know. A good example of that is I went to the court clerk and I was representing myself in a civil case. And I had a hearing today on the same case at 1 o'clock today. And I went in, I was representing myself, and I did a motion to the judge, and he thought it was kind of odd. And I asked him to remove my license from the record. And I went to the clerk's office, and I guess they have high turnover because the clerk asked me to show my identification. And I assumed it was to prove that I am who I say I am to submit or file my motion that I was filing in my case. And normally that's not the procedure, but I didn't want to be a smarty pants, so I didn't argue with the clerk staff. But I kind of knew that that wasn't appropriate. So I complied and I gave her my driver's license. And the person scanned my license and they entered it into the docket sheet. And the docket sheet is a public record. So you're able to go online in the Lake County Court Clerk public record and look up my driver's license. And my photo is there, my address, my driver's license number, whatever identifying information is on there. And so obviously I was livid about this. So I filed a motion to the judge to remove my license from the public record. And of course he conceded that my driver license has no business in the public record. So again, I bring this up not so I can lambaste the clerk's office, right? So I can say that how important it is that we understand basic civics and some base platform of how the law works, because the average Joe should know that you don't post someone's driver's license in a public record or file that would be public. So I just thought that was a bit odd. With that being said, tonight we're going to have a guest that's going to be Jocelyn Kelly. She's the founder of Jay's Breakfast Club. And we're not really going to talk about food in the restaurant. That's not really what we're going to talk about. That may be mentioned. Of course, Jocelyn going to want to plug her place. But our conversation tonight is going to be about her experience as an entrepreneur and a small business person, going from a small business to a medium business to what she want, I guess the sky's the limit, a large business. And in doing that along the way, she's had to construct a new building. So we want to talk to her about that experience and constructing a new building in Northwest Indiana for the purpose of expanding and growing her brand and her business. And we want to talk a little bit about that. I think that's going to be interesting, that she shared with us her experience of dealing with the contractor, maybe some information about the financing, so a little bit about the build out schedule, a little bit about the zoning and licensing and things like that. And in reality, if it's really, really worth it, it's not a big deal jumping through as many hoops as we think. But someone who has boots on the ground and has a little experience actually doing it, because a lot of times on WLTH in particular, we get callers in and say, well, why don't we have this? And why don't somebody open this? And why don't somebody do that? And why don't somebody do that? So we're going to hear a little bit from the horse's mouth of what it's like to attempt to do that. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back shortly. Thank you for watching We the People and listening to We the People on whatever platform it is, including WLTH AM 1370, your Northwest Indiana region station.